Hi guys, welcome back to the Daily Dreamer. Thanks so much for coming and hanging out with me today for a dream. I know it's been a hot minute and I apologize, but life seems to be calling me back into this 3D matrix to take care of things that, we have to take care of down here to make sure that things are done. Okay, but it's not to say that I haven't been having dreams. And lately I've been having some crazy off the wall dreams. How have your dreams been for you lately? Well, let's go ahead and talk about one of these dreams that I had a couple days ago. I've been trying to get this out to you guys because the message I think is important. But last night, I just want to say as a side note, sometimes when you're a lucid dreamer, things become so lucid that you have a hard time deciphering whether or not they are between reality and dreamland. Last night was one of those dreams for me. I only knew it was a dream because when I went up to the building that I was supposed to go in last night, there are two people over here and they've got masks on. Go figure. But how I knew it was a dream was because one of the gentlemen who had a mask on actually had an actual bath towel hanging from his ears. And so all I see is nothing but a big old long bath towel, which made me chuckle. And that kind of triggered me to go, this is a dream, because no one would ever wear that in real life. But that was kind of funny. All right, so let's get back to this dream that I think is so important that you need to know. All right, I wake up, come to, and there is a lady standing there. I guess she's a real estate agent at this point. That's what my assumption was. My active participating self is talking with her, and I am the observer, and I'm watching this transfold. They go into the house. I follow in. At this point now, it's just me and her. So my observer self now gets jumped into my participating self because I did not see my participating self continue on. It was just me at this point. All right, so when we get into the house, I notice that the entire house is just filled with lovely drawings and murals, and they are just beautiful and very detailed, very intricate, jaw-dropping, to say the least. Anyways, she is obviously not in any way, shape, or form, like, mesmerized by the artwork that I am as I walk around the house. I didn't even care what the house was at this point because the artwork inside it was so beautiful. I wanted the house. And so I said, how much do you want for the house? And she said, I want 133. And as I was admiring the artwork, she said, look, I don't mean to be short or crude or, rash or anything. I really want to just make this happen and be done. And I said, well, what happened? And she said that it was her uncle or someone. She mentioned someone that was in relations to her, and that it just looked like he had just moved on. Well, what I saw was the fact that he ran out of room for his drawings, and then he decided to move on. Nonetheless, as I was admiring all of the artwork, she asked for the money, so I sat down. I instantly manifested the money because, you can do that in dreams. She instantly manifested the paperwork, although I don't know why in dreamland you would need paperwork. Anyways, but she instantly manifested. I did the signature, gave her the money. She gave me the keys and says, not that she wants to be rude, but she's got to go. She could hardly wait to get her hands on the money. All right. Once she leaves, I turn back around to where she was standing, and I notice that there is not a wall now at this point. It's a whole nother room. And my mouth dropped to the floor because I was just impressed. This whole other room seemed like it went for days. It was like this windy, wide corridor, and there were like white doors over here. I go into this room, and I see a gentleman who is standing there, and he is just drawing and doing his artwork in all his glory. And I get the feeling that, it's the gentleman that had this house. And so as I'm walking into this room, there are cathedral ceilings. The walls are yellow. He had done a beautiful, amazing mural on the cathedral ceiling. Only this time, his artwork pieces weren't just intricate masterpieces. They were intricate masterpieces with very vivid color. And every single one of them that he had finished was outlined in gold, real gold. There was gold surrounding these artworks. And I had asked him, I said, oh my goodness gracious, who are you doing these for? And he said, my master. And I said, well, who's your master? Well, he didn't answer. He just continued to go on. And I said, why do you think your I think I said niece didn't want this house? Doesn't she realize that you're still here? And he said, well, her desire took her elsewhere. She couldn't see that the inside actually had more to offer than what she could see. Her desire was something more tangible of what she couldn't see or refused to see. He said that she didn't have the patience to just give it a moment to simply understand or see that all the desires that she actually really wanted were literally right within that house. She just wasn't ready. She just didn't see that. She just wanted to move on. And so I went to go ask him another question, but at that point I was back to consciousness. So what a dream to have, right? So what do you think that dream meant? Let's go find out, shall we? So what do you think that dream meant, guys? That was a good dream. The artwork in that dream was just absolutely amazing. But when I sat to dwell on it, what came up for me was discipline. That's what came up for me. You know, they say discipline is one of the highest forms of self-love that you can give to yourself. And why is that? Because they say that it's quite literally telling yourself that you can delay any instant gratification and comfort for better things to come in the future. And that's a wonderful trait to have. A lot of people see self-love as spa baths or massages or fancy coffee. But true self-love is how you manage yourself in the face of adversity. It's how you talk to yourself. It's what you're willing to do to create the version of yourself that you can actually admire the most. True self-love is very difficult. It's very hard. It is the hardest yet most rewarding thing that you will ever do. It is something that is earned each and every day. The road to Olympus, my friends, is not going to be an easy one. It requires you waking up to not being so childish so as to believe that you are already woke, as they say. You know, we imagine an entire universe in our thoughts. Okay, that's really deep. You know, that's a process similar to the creation by the divine. There is an entire universe in the thoughts of each and every man here on earth. And for him, time is going to pass within a second. You know, life created by man within his imagination exists within his mental universe. And then at that point, then he passes from this world to the universe of God, where man himself lives and resides. That is to say, of course, his material density is similar to that of his creator. That's where we get to understand that spiritual betterment of ourselves consists of development, strengthening, growth, and evolution of the divine being within ourselves. That place is called spirit. And spirit can only be found within you. It's like you doing meditations, dream work, deep insight, shadow work, you know, so forth and so on. Just work on yourself, but through discipline, day after day. That's why discipline makes you a disciple. You know, they say those that dine with the devil should use a long spoon. So that's what you should do. Go inside, face your demons, but remember to eat with that long spoon, okay? Remember, Nietzsche once said, all great things must first wear a terrifying and monstrous mask in order to inscribe themselves on the hearts of humanity. How do you think you get there? By going through and dining with the devil. You know, that's finding your absolute truth, going beyond that, being able to understand that, okay? That is done through daily discipline. Once discipline is manifested and we can commit to overcoming our own obstacles, okay, it's going to enable very profound change for you. And a change that is gradually going to get you to begin to understand what absolute truth is. You know, there is a difference between the wise and the semi-wise. The wise, they get stuck in their illusion of a world that is filled with mechanical intelligence. Yep. Then there are those that are the semi-wise, and they understand a bit more. They understand that they need to become polarized with themselves, with the essential part within, because they know that if they do that, their spirit is going to end up manifesting itself through disciplining their ways, you know, constant self-attention. The person that usually does that, though, they're the ones that usually avoid the whole world of illusion and fantasy down here. They're the loners. They tend to do this. But they do this because they want to penetrate the level of the great thinker where the absolute resides. They want to go within. They want to know what their higher self is about. And that explains why personalities impede our higher spiritual development. Each one of our personalities get in the way because those are filled with egos. It blocks our contact with actual reality. Generally, the more programmed a person is or indoctrinated in by ways of schools or universities, the more difficult it's going to be for them to go ahead and elevate themselves to the knowledge of the world of the absolute and truth and mysteries, you know. They say, though, that it's not enough just to find your master, but it's actually necessary to have a disciple, one willing and to become like a true student of the mysteries of life. That's not easy to find. And that's not easy to find because people are so used to the traditional concept of education or learning, which we all know says that all a student's going to need to do is study with perseverance to become a savant in any subject that they're willing to pay for. Yep, that's the indoctrinated education, guys. In a study program, the individual or student is there only to learn things, which may or may not be useful, which may be real, may be subjective. But in the esoteric school, the disciple has the opportunity to reach their true evolution, their higher self. They have the ability to be able to free themselves from the collective soul of the norm. Perhaps the greatest obstacle that students here will face in that encounter is that it's useless to study that type of discipline because it's not learned in the books, okay? Because that discipline requires no books. So it's one of the greatest obstacles that students will have to overcome is that it's useless to study the discipline. And they think this because, well, his intellect simply is not sufficient enough or advanced enough to unveil the mysteries that are presented there for him and in front of him. They can't fathom it. So it's useless to them. Human beings, we live in this permanent dreamlike status. It's only interrupted by little tiny sparks of awareness. You know, those deja vu moments, those super enlightening moments that just flash before your eyes, the light bulb moments, if you will. And although we appear to be awake during the day, we are in reality very much asleep. We are like walking zombies, and we have very low states of alertness. That is why for humans, reason and logic are the intellectual instruments of this dream state that we choose to be a part of. If we cannot explain something via reason and logic, guys, it's almost immediately dismissed as hogwash or a crazy idea from a crazy individual. And this in itself can be very difficult to become aware of because we doubt ourselves. We mentally torment ourselves in our own self-observations. We doubt ourselves when we get those light bulb moments. You know, for some reason, I don't know why we do that. But for this reason, intelligence alone is not going to be enough for us to become aware of the events that will take place in the world of waking reality. The student cannot, in the beginning, at first, rely on their own strength of reasoning. Okay, it's like the student must learn to think almost with another brain so that there is another reasoning superior to that of the ordinary one that we have can be born. Okay, you have to be willing to set aside your normal ordinary brain of beliefs and shed all of that for something else to be brought within that's higher for you. This, of course, we know can only be attained through true initiation, not symbolic initiation, true deeper initiation of yourself. True initiation induces a very profound and concrete change in the student's psychological structure. And you'll know that. It's a very painful and difficult process to go through. And it's only successful if you give it superhuman effort. Okay? The conditions for discipline which a disciple has to possess to be able to carry on. Okay, it couples itself with internal and external obstacles that we have to overcome on a daily basis, and that's not easy. All right, these are incredibly immense situations that we have to deal with. They are our demons. And guess what, guys? They are ready to do battle. Schools do not choose their disciples from among the most intelligent candidates out there. So it doesn't matter how book smart you are. That's not what's going to cut it. They choose people that have characteristics which make them fit enough to be able to face their demons and their own ugliness, because that's where the absolute truth lies. So those students are the ones that are going to get chosen. Okay, you have to be able to practice loyalty, dedication, consistency, and definitely faithfulness towards yourself. You have to have the ability to be free from any mental disturbances when you go in there. Okay? What is actually being sought here, guys? It's your own inner nature. Okay, and like everything else in the world, guess what? There's going to be an easy path and there's going to be a difficult path. That's the difference between the student and the disciple. Channeling one's character, overcoming complexes, inhibitions, frustrations, learning to handle the mental power in order to go ahead and channel it toward a goal of overcoming oneself to be able to help others. It's not going to be an easy path. It's not something that's just going to be handed to you. You have to go in. So are you the student or are you the disciple? You know, the negative part of nature, which some call Satan, that's going to definitely go ahead and meet that student with anger and rage because you're trying to break free. Okay, you're going to be faced with all kinds of obstacles, negative reactions, and everything else because guess what? It's their job to do so. It is their job to attempt to prevent the disciple from arriving at Mount Olympus. An individual who has actually reached the peak of evolution, or in this case, reached the, entranceway to Mount Olympus, they're known at that point to become a very astronomical person. They're a great person, if you will. And there's just something about that person. They're very heavenly. It's because they've reached the immortality of their own essence. And they did this through the practice of conscious reincarnation. Daily going in, cleaning things out, dealing with their demons. They crossed the veil of Maya, the illusion. They found absolute truth within. These disciples, they are now at that point, once they do that, they are beyond good and evil. They are beyond opposites, beyond pleasure and pain. They are beyond happiness, misfortune, life, and death. They have transcended beyond. But one just has to be willing to discipline themselves each and every day. Even just 5 minutes a day shows that you're willing to commit to yourself because you deserve to know what your absolute truth is. So give yourself that 5 minutes because you need to share it with the world. That's your absolute truth and we need to hear it. So what is your truth? Are you disciplined enough to find out? Till next time, folks, thanks so much for joining me for Daily Dreamer. Many blessings to you and sweet dreams.